Mantras of our Divine Mother. Our Divine Mother says, keep a cool head, strong and very quiet nerves, and a complete trust in the Divine grace. With always our love and blessings, says our Divine Mother. New Year message by our Divine Mother. Our Divine Mother says, let the birth of the new year be the new birth of our consciousness, leaving the past far behind us. Let us run towards a luminous future. With always our love and blessings, says our Divine Mother. Sri Aurobindo's Savitri, Book 3, the Book of the Divine Mother, Canto 4, The Vision and the Bone, page 392, new stanza. As a flame disappears in the endless light, immortally extinguished in its source, vanished the splendor, and was stilled the world. An echo of delight that once was close, the harmony journeyed towards some distant hush, a music failing in the ear of trance, a cadence called by distant cadence. Sri Aurobindo's Savitri, Book 3, the Book of the Divine Mother, Canto 4, The Vision and the Bone, page 392. As a flame disappears in endless light, immortally extinguished in its source, vanished the splendor, and was stilled the world. An echo of delight that once was close, the harmony journeyed towards some distant hush, a music failing in the ear of trance, a cadence called by distant cadences, a voice that trembled into strains withdrawn, her form retreated from the longing earth, forsaking nearness to the abandoned sense, ascending to her unattainable home. Lone, brilliant, vacant lay the inner fields. All was unfilled, inordinate spirit space, indifferent, waste, a desert of bright peace. Then a line moved on the far edge of calm, the warm-lipped sentience of terrestrial wave, a quick and many murmured moan and laugh came gliding in upon white feet of sound. Unlocked was the deep glory of silence heart, the absolute, unmoving stillnesses surrendered to the breath of mortal air, dissolving boundlessly the heavens of trance, collapsed to waking mind, eternity. Cast down its incommunicable lids over its solitudes, remote from ken, behind the voiceless mystery of sleep. The grandiose respite failed, the wide release across the light of fast receding plains that fled from him as from a falling star, compelled to fill his human house in time. His soul drew back into the speed and noise of the vast business of created things, a chariot of the marvels of the heavens, broad based to bear the gods on fiery wheels. Flaming, he swept through the spiritual gates. The mortal stir received him in its midst. Once more he moved amid material scenes, lifted by intimations from the heights and twixt the pauses of the building brain, touched by the thoughts that skim the fathomless surge of nature and wing back to hidden shores, the eternal seeker in the aeonic field, besieged by the intolerant press of ours, again was strong for great swift-footed deeds, awake beneath the ignorant vault of night. He saw the unnumbered people of the stars and heard the questioning of the unsatisfied flood and toiled with the form maker, measuring mind. Words of our Lord and our Divine Mother about mantras. Our Lord Sri Aurobindo says the mantra is one of these psycho-spiritual means, at once a symbol, an instrument, and a sound body for the divine manifestation. Our Lord Sri Aurobindo says the function of a mantra is to create vibrations in the inner consciousness that will prepare it for the realization of what the mantra symbolizes and is supposed indeed to carry within itself. Our Divine Mother says, nobody can give you the true mantra. It is not something that is given. It is something that wells up from within. Sri Aurobindo on mantra. The theory behind the mantra. Our Lord Sri Aurobindo says, all creation is expressed by the word, but the form which is expressed is only a symbol or a representation of the thing which is. We see this in human speech, which only represents to the mind a mental form of the object. But the object it seeks to express is in itself only a form or a representation of another reality. That reality is Brahman. Brahman expresses by the word a form or presentation of himself in the objects of sense and consciousness, which constitutes the universe, just as the human word expresses a mental image of those objects. That word is creative in a deeper and more original sense than human speech, and with a power of which the utmost creativeness of human speech can be only a far off and feeble analogy. The word used here for utterance means literally a raising up to confront the mind. Brahman, says the Upanishad, is that which cannot be so raised up before the mind by speech. Human speech, as we see, raises up only the presentation of a presentation, the mental figure of an object, which is itself only a figure of the sole reality, Brahman. It is indeed a power of new creation, but even that power only extends to the creation of new mental images, that is to say, of adaptive formations based upon previous mental images. Such a limited power gives no idea of the original creative puissance which the old thinkers attributed to the divine world. Our Lord Sri Aurobindo says, if, however, we go a little deeper below the surface, we shall arrive at a power in human speech which does give us a remote image of the original creative word. We know that vibration of sound has the power to create and to destroy forms. This is a commonplace of modern science. Let us suppose that behind all the forms there has been a creative vibration of sound. Now let us imagine the relation of human speech to sound in general. We see at once that speech is only a particular application of the principle of sound, a vibration made by pressure of the breath in its passage through the throat and the mouth. At first, beyond doubt, it must have been formed naturally and spontaneously to express the emotions created by an object or occurrence, and only afterwards seized upon by the mind to express first the idea of the object and then ideas about the object. The value of speech would therefore seem to be only representative and not creative. But in fact, speech is creative. It creates forms of emotion, mental images, and impulses of action. The ancient Vedic theory and practice extended this creative action of speech by the use of the mantra. The theory of mantra is that it is a word of power born out of the secret depths of our being, where it has been brooded upon by a deeper consciousness than the mental, framed in the heart and not constructed by the intellect, held in the mind, again concentrated on by the waking mental consciousness, and then thrown out silently or vocally. The silent word is perhaps held to be more potent than the spoken, precisely for the work of creation. The mantra cannot only create new subjective states in ourselves, alter our psychical being, reveal knowledge and faculties we do not before possess, cannot only produce similar results in the minds than that of the user, but can produce vibrations in the mental and vital atmosphere which result in effects, in actions, and even in the production of material forms on the physical plane. Our Lord Sri Aurobindo says, as a matter of fact, even ordinarily, even daily and hourly, we do produce by the word within us thought vibrations, thought forms, which result in corresponding vital and physical vibrations, act upon ourselves, act upon others, and end in the indirect creation of action and of forms in the physical world. Man is constantly acting upon man, both by silent and the spoken word, and he so acts and creates, though less directly and powerfully, even in the rest of nature. But because we are stupidly engrossed with the external forms and phenomena of the world, and do not trouble to examine its subtle and non-physical processes, we remain ignorant of all this field of science behind. Our Lord Sri Aurobindo says, the Vedic use of the mantra is only a conscious utilization of this secret power of the word. And if we take the theory that underlies it, together with our previous hypothesis of a creation, vibration of sound behind every formation, we shall begin to understand the idea of the original creative word. Let us suppose a conscious use of vibrations of sound, which will produce corresponding forms or changes of form. But matter is, only in the ancient view, the lowest of the planes of existence. Let us realize then that a vibration of sound on the material plane presupposes a corresponding vibration on the vital without which it could not have come into play. That again presupposes a corresponding originative vibration on the mental. The mental presupposes a corresponding originative vibration on the supramental at the very root of things. But a mental vibration implies thought and perception, and a supramental vibration implies a supreme vision and discernment. All vibration of sound on that higher plane is then instinct with and expressive of this supreme discernment of a truth in things, and is at the same time creative, instinct with a supreme power which casts into forms the truth discerned and eventually descending from plane to plane, reproduces it in the physical form or object created in matter by etheric sound. Thus, we see that the theory of creation by the word, which is the absolute expression of the truth, and the theory of the material creation by sound vibration in the ether correspond, and the two logical poles of the same idea. They belong both to the same ancient Vedic system. Our Lord continues to say, thus, then is the supreme word, the speech of our speech. It is vibration of pure existence, instinct with a perspective and originative power of infinite and omnipotent consciousness, shaped by the mind, behind mind into the inevitable word of the truth of things, out of whatever substance, on whatever plane, the form or the physical expression emerges by its creative agency. The supermind uses the word is the creative logo. The word has its seed sound, suggesting the eternal syllable of the Veda, Om. The seed sounds of the tantrics, which carry in them the principle of things. It has its forms which stand behind the revelatory and inspired speech that comes to man's supreme faculties, and these compel the form of things in the universe. It has its rhythms, for it is no discordant vibration but moves out into the cosmic measures, and according to the rhythm is the law, arrangement, harmony, processes of the world it builds. Life itself is a rhythm of God. But what is it that is expressed or raised up before the consciousness by the word in the world? Not Brahman, but forms and phenomena of Brahman. Brahman is not, cannot be expressed by word. He does not use the word to express himself, but is known to his own self-awareness and even the truths of himself that stand behind the forms of cosmic things are always self-expressed to his eternal vision. Speech creates, expresses, but is itself only a creation and expression. Brahman is not expressed by speech, but speech is expressed by Brahman. Therefore, it is not the happenings and phenomenon of the world that we have to accept finally as our object of pursuit, but that which brings out from itself the word by which they were thrown into form for our observation by the consciousness and for the pursuit by the will. In other words, the supreme existence that has originated all. Human speech is only a secondary expression, and it's higher a shadow of the divine word, the seed sounds, the satisfying rhythms, the revealing forms of sound that are omniscient and omnipotent speech of the eternal thinker, harmonious creator. The highest inspired speech to which the human mind can attain, the word most unanalysably expressive of the supreme truth, the most puissant syllable or mantra can only be its far off representation. This is taken from the Upanishads, page 168. Sri Aurobindo talks about mantra in Sri Aurobindo's Savitri, the Book of Birth and Quest, in page 375, and says, as when the mantra sings in yoga's ear, its message enters, stirring the blind brain, and keeps in the dim, ignorant cells its sound. The hearer understands a form of words and, musing on the index thought it holds, he strives to read it with the laboring mind, but finds bright hints, not the embodied truth. Then, falling silent in himself to know, he meets the deeper listening of his soul. The word repeats itself in rhythmic strains. Thought, vision, feeling, sense, the body's self are seized unalterably, and he endures an ecstasy and an immortal change. He feels a wideness and becomes a power. All knowledge rushes on him like a sea, transmuted by the wide spiritual ray. He walks in naked heavens of joy and calm, sees the God face, and hears transcendent speech. In the mantra given by our Divine Mother, Om Namo Bhagavate, the first word represents the supreme invocation, the invocation to the Supreme. The second word, Namo, represents total self-giving, perfect surrender. The third word, Bhagavate, represents the aspiration, what the manifestation must become, divine. Om Namo Bhagavate Sri Aravindaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Sri Aravindaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Sri Aravindaya, as written by our Divine Mother.